Man, I got to tell you something. I was sitting the other day just thinking, and I stumbled across this thing in Islam about charity, and it's different from anything I've ever seen. Now, listen, we all know giving to the poor is a good thing. Everybody knows that. But Islam, they don't just leave it up to you to do good whenever you feel like it. Nah, they got rules, straight up rules about giving that make sure nobody ever gets forgotten. You got a little money, you give. You got a lot, you give. Every year, a set portion, it's called Zakat. And the crazy part is it's not optional. If you have wealth, you give. Doesn't matter if it's big, doesn't matter if it's small. 2.5% of what you have every year. I know what you're thinking, Tony Robbins. That ain't much. But man, when millions of people do it consistently, that little bit adds up in ways that can change whole communities. And it's not just cash either. You can give food, clothes, build a well, help somebody in debt. If it helps a person in need, it counts. Man, I was thinking about that and I said, wait, we've been winging this whole giving thing all these years. And Islam been running a system like this for over 1,400 years. Yeah, over a millennium. And they still make it work. And what I love about it is how structured it is. It's not random. It's not just whoever asks gets it. There's an order. You got the poor first, orphans next, widows after that, people in debt, travelers stuck far from home. Everybody has a place in line. And the goal is simple. Nobody gets left behind. Nobody. And I thought about myself for a second and I said, man, I don't even organize my own closet like this. And yet here's a system that organizes charity so that it actually works for real people and it goes even deeper. In Islam, it's not just about giving your money and walking away. No, it's about being thoughtful. It's about responsibility. The idea is that wealth comes with an obligation. You can't just sit on it. You can't hoard it. You can't be selfish with it. You have a duty to make sure it benefits other people, especially the people who need it the most. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, you give what you can. Even if all you got is a little bit, it counts. I love that part because it shows how giving isn't about the size of the gift. It's about the heart behind it. It's about stepping up, doing your part, making sure the people around you are taken care of. Man, I was thinking we could all learn from that. How many times we pass someone in need or see a cause and we just think, oh, somebody else will help. Islam doesn't let you do that. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a responsibility. And that, my friends, is the kind of system that actually works to protect the vulnerable and lift up the community. And here's another thing that hit me. It's not just the rules about giving a fixed portion every year. There's also something called Sadaqah. Sadaqah is voluntary charity. That means anytime, anywhere you see somebody in need, you can give. No set amount, no set schedule, just helping out whenever you can. And when people do that, man, it adds up. You start to see communities transforming, people helping people. It creates a culture of care, a culture of empathy. And what's crazy is all these rules, Zakat and Sadaqah, they're designed to make sure the poor never get left behind. That's not just talk. That's action. That's a system that has been keeping people fed, clothed, and supported for over 1,000 years. And when I read about it, I said, man, this is beautiful. Not because it's complicated, but because it works. Simple rules consistently followed, making sure nobody goes without. And I thought we could all use a little bit of that in our lives. Because giving like this, it's not just about helping someone else. It's about being part of something bigger. It's about community. It's about humanity. And it's about making sure that when you've got more than you need, you don't just sit on it. You put it to work to help someone else live better.
Now, I know some of y'all thinking, Tony Robbins, this sounds strict. I like my freedom. And I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. When you follow rules like this, it frees you in a different way. It frees you from the guilt of seeing someone in need and doing nothing. It frees you from selfishness. It frees you to be part of a bigger picture. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this isn't just about money. It's about a mindset that says, if I have more than you, I have a responsibility to help you. That, my friends, is why Islam's rules about charity are so powerful. Not because they're strict, not because they're old-fashioned, but because they actually work. They lift people up. They create fairness. They build communities. And when you look at it like that, man, you can't help but respect it. And you can't help but say, man, we could all learn something here. Now, I want to tell y'all something else that really got me thinking. See, when I first heard about Zakat and Sadaqah, I thought, okay, rules are rules, fine. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized how practical this whole thing is. I mean, it's not just a set of rules on paper. It's a system that actually changes lives right now in real communities. And I started thinking about how it would look if we actually applied it today in our neighborhoods, in our cities. Man, I was imagining this. Every person who has a little extra, taking just a portion of it and giving it consistently, not once in a while, not when it's convenient, but consistently helping people who actually need it. Can you imagine? Nobody sleeping hungry at night. Nobody walking around wondering how they're going to pay their bills tomorrow. And the crazy part is it's designed to help the most vulnerable people first. The orphans, the widows, the families struggling to get by, the people in debt, the travelers stuck far from home, they get priority. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, that is just smart. That's practical. That's real-life problem-solving right there. It's not a feel-good system. It's a working system. And it's been working for over some 400 years. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized we could all take a page from this book. We think giving is just tossing a few dollars in a bucket or writing a check and moving on. But here's the lesson. Giving is powerful when it's structured, when it's consistent, and when it actually reaches the people who need it the most. And that's why it blew my mind. I said to myself, Tony Robbins, you gotta pay attention. This isn't some old tradition. This is a plan that works. And then I started looking at Sadaqah, the voluntary charity. Now, this part really got me laughing because it's so simple and so human. You see somebody in need, you help them. That's it. No rules, no percentages, just giving when you can. But the beauty of it is it adds up. Man, you don't realize how far a little bit of kindness can go. One person gives a little, another person gives a little, and all of a sudden, whole communities are being transformed. And that's what's so brilliant about it. Islam teaches that every little bit counts. It don't matter if it's small or big as long as it comes from the heart, and that's something we can all learn, because too often we think, oh, I don't have enough, so it won't make a difference. But that's exactly what they're teaching here. Even small contributions matter. And it's not just about the money either. It's about the act itself, the intention behind it, the effort to help someone else. That's where the power is. And I thought, man, if more people thought like this, the world would be a different place. It's simple, it's human, and it's effective. Now, let me tell y'all a story. I was reading about a man in a small village somewhere, and he didn't have much, barely enough to feed his own family. But one day he saw a stranger walking by, hungry and tired, so he shared what little food he had. And the stranger, it turns out, went on to tell others, and soon the whole village started sharing, helping each other, looking out for one another. Man, I sat there laughing to myself because it reminded me of how simple acts of charity can have a ripple effect. You think it's just one thing, one meal, one act, but it spreads, it multiplies. And that's what Islam encourages. You help one person and it can change the lives of dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands over time. And that, my friends, is why these rules exist. It's not about being strict or controlling. It's about creating a system that works, a system that lifts people up, a system that makes sure the poor are never forgotten. How many times we walk past people in need and think somebody else will help? This system doesn't allow that. It says, no, you're somebody, you have a role, you have a responsibility, you can make a difference. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much we miss out on just because we don't give thoughtfully, we give sporadically, we give for the wrong reasons, we give when it makes us look good. But when you give with intention, when you give consistently, and when you follow a plan that actually works, man, it changes everything. It changes communities, it changes lives, it changes you. And I love that part because it's not just about the poor getting help. It's about teaching people to be better, to care, to step up. It's about creating a culture of generosity, a culture where giving isn't a chore, it's a responsibility. A culture where nobody is left behind because everyone matters. And man, if we all took even a little bit of this and applied it in our lives, just imagine the difference we could make. That's what makes it so remarkable. That's what makes it practical, real, and still relevant today. And the best part, you don't have to be rich to participate. You don't have to have millions. You just have to care. You just have to act. And that, my friends, is the kind of thinking that can truly transform the world. Man, now I got to tell y'all, the more I think about this, the more I realize how practical these rules really are. I mean, it ain't just theory. It's not just some old dusty rule book from centuries ago. It's a system that actually works in real life every single day. You see, in Islam, they got this way of giving that makes sure people in need get help. And not just sometimes, not just when it's convenient, but consistently every year, every time. And that's what really struck me. I started looking around thinking about how giving works in our modern world. You ever notice how a lot of people give charity kind of randomly? Like maybe they see a commercial on TV, maybe they see someone on social media crying for help, maybe they give on a holiday and that's it. But Islam flips that. Islam says, no, 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 you don't wait for someone to beg, you don't wait for a special occasion, you give because it's a responsibility, you give because you can. And man, that is some real talk. That's some wisdom that's been around longer than America's been a country, longer than most of us have even been alive, and it still works. Now, I want to give y'all an example because I'm a storyteller, and y'all know I got to paint a picture for you. Imagine a small village somewhere, people struggling to get by. There's a man, maybe a farmer, maybe a shopkeeper, and he don't have much, just enough to get through the week maybe. But Islam teaches that if he has a little extra, even a small portion, he gives it to the people who need it more. And what happens? The village starts feeding the poor, the widows get looked after, orphans get school books, families in debt get help. And over time, the community starts lifting itself up. People start helping each other, the whole village changes. And I said to myself, man, that is powerful. Because see, most of us think charity is just a momentary thing. Give some money, feel good, move on. But this is like planting seeds. And when you plant seeds the right way consistently, those seeds grow into something that lasts for generations. That's what these rules are all about. That's what makes them shocking but brilliant. And it's not just in small villages either. I started thinking about how this applies in bigger cities. Even here in America, man, if you got wealth even a little bit and you gave a portion consistently, you could change the lives of so many people around you. Let's say you're a business owner, you got employees who are struggling, you got neighbors who can barely make rent, you got kids in your community who don't have books or food. You could use this system and make sure those people are taken care of. And the beauty is, it doesn't make you broke, it doesn't make you weak, it actually blesses your life. I read about this concept that when you give consistently and with intention, your wealth actually grows. And I thought, man, that is something we all need to hear, because most of us out here thinking, if I give away too much, I'll have nothing left. But Islam flips it. Islam says, give and watch how it comes back to you in ways you can't even imagine. And that, my friends, is why the poor never get left behind. It's not luck, it's not chance, it's a system that works if you follow it. And the more I think about it, the more I realize how simple it really is. Now, here's another thing that really got me laughing. I was watching a video, and there was this story about a man who only had a little money, but he still found a way to help someone, and then that person went on to help somebody else, and then that person helped somebody else. And man, it was like a chain reaction, and I thought that is genius. Because too often we think, well, I can't do much, so what's the point? But that's exactly the point. Even the smallest act can ripple out and make a huge difference. And that's what Sadaqah is all about. Voluntary charity, given anytime, anywhere, in any amount. You don't have to wait for rules, you don't have to wait for percentages, you just give. And when everybody does that, communities transform, lives change. People who are struggling now have hope. Kids who are hungry now have food. Families who are scared now have security. And it made me think, man, why don't we do more of this? Because the system is right there, the rules are clear, all you got to do is follow them. And when you do, it's shocking how much impact you can make, how many lives you can touch, and how much better the world becomes. Now, before we finish, let me tell y'all what really hit me about all this. I was sitting back thinking, man, this is more than just giving money. This is about creating a way of life. See, when Islam talks about charity, it's not just about helping someone once and calling it a day. It's about making giving a part of who you are. It's about making sure you're always looking around, seeing who needs help and doing what you can. And the way they set it up, it works. It's like a machine. Everybody has a role, everybody contributes, nobody gets left behind. And I thought to myself, man, we need some of that here. We need systems like this everywhere. Not just in villages or big cities far away, but everywhere, because too many people out here struggling, too many people feeling forgotten. And these rules, this way of thinking shows you that it doesn't have to be that way. You can make a difference no matter how small you start. And let me tell you something else that I found so remarkable. Islam doesn't just tell you to give, it tells you why you give, it tells you how to give. It even tells you what happens when you give, and I love that part because it shows you that charity isn't just a nice thing to do, it's a responsibility. Yes, but it's also a blessing. Every act of kindness, every dollar, every meal, every bit of help, it counts. And it counts in ways that you may never even see. And that, my friends, is what makes it powerful. You may not see the person you help today feeding their family tomorrow, but somewhere somebody's life has changed because of it. And that ripple effect, man, that's what keeps the world moving. That's what keeps community strong. That's what keeps hope alive. And it made me realize something about myself. I said, Tony Robbins, you've been given, sure, but have you really been given with intention, with consistency, with structure? And I had to laugh at myself because most of the time I just gave when it felt right. But this system, man, it makes you think bigger. It makes you think smarter. It makes you see how every little bit can add up to something massive if done the right way. And then I started thinking about all the people out there who don't have a voice, who don't have money, who don't have connections, kids growing up without enough food, families struggling just to pay rent, elderly people alone in their homes. And I realized, man, the rules of charity in Islam are made to protect these people. They're made to make sure that someone somewhere is always looking out for them, that nobody is forgotten. That's powerful. That's not just religion. That's common sense. That's humanity. And it made me feel hopeful because if a system like this can exist for over 1,000 years and still work if people follow it consistently, imagine what could happen today. Imagine neighborhoods, towns, cities, countries, communities filled with people following these simple rules of giving. Man, it would change everything. And that, my friends, is the lesson I want to leave you with. So when you think about charity, don't just think about it as throwing $1 in a bucket. Don't just think about it as something you do when it's convenient. Think about it like this. Think about it like a responsibility, a part of your life, a way to make sure that people around you don't get left behind. And I'll tell you this, when you give like that consistently, intentionally, with your heart in it, it comes back to you in ways you can't even imagine. Not always money, not always fame, not always recognition, but in blessings, in community, in relationships, in respect, in peace of mind. And man, that is powerful. That is life-changing. And if you take one thing from this whole conversation, let it be this. Giving isn't just about you, it's about everyone else. It's about building something bigger than yourself. It's about creating a world where nobody goes hungry, nobody is forgotten, and nobody is left behind. That right there, my friends, is the kind of power that changes lives. And that, my friends, is why the rules of charity in Islam are not just shocking, they're beautiful, they're practical, and they are meant to last forever.